Regardless of how you start or join a Google Meet, you're going to have similar tools. So let's look at some of those tools that are available to you within Google Meet. Let's go ahead and join the call. So once I'm in a call, at the bottom left-hand corner, this is where you can find your joining information. Additionally, if this meet were created as a calendar event and any attachments were provided in that calendar event, they would be attached and available in this tab. So two things in the bottom left-hand corner. Additionally, underneath, you can decide to mute yourself or unmute. This is where you leave the call. And this is where you're going to turn off your camera if you don't want to have your camera visible, or you can turn on your camera. Over on the far right, you'll see the button to turn on captions. Turning on captions enables an auto caption tool that will try to type what you're saying. So I'm going to turn that on so you can see that work. As I'm presenting content, the auto closed captioning feature is typing on the bottom of my screen. So if a participant has closed captions turned on, he or she will be able to see what I'm saying, provided that it is correctly closed captioned by the automatic feature. So you see how it's possible as someone who wanted to read the text of the conversation, or if I am a person who has hearing deficiencies, I can actually turn that on and it will be accessing auto closed captioning in the live feature. The other option to the right is presenting. I would like to go ahead and show you this because this is a great tool if you are using this in a meeting or talking with students or parents and you want to bring up something to show to the group. So when you click Present Now, you are given various options. One of the options is your entire screen. So if I were to present my entire screen, it shows the desktop, all my little buttons and shortcuts and trash can and all those wonderful things. And if you have a fairly clean desktop, this could be okay. However, you have to remember that the person who is seeing your screen is going to see the same size no matter what you share. So the larger the area that you share, the smaller the things are that he or she can see on your screen. So you're going to want to really consider that when you're sharing. If you're not really comfortable with switching back and forth with tabs or transferring from one tab or one application to another with sharing, it might be easier for you to just share your entire screen. You just have to remember that. The second option is to share a window. When I click the Share a Window button, it's going to give me a list of all the current windows that I have open. I can select which window I want and click Share. This shares the entire window. So that means if I chose the window I'm using now, every tab in Google Chrome is viewable. The last option is the one that you need to use, particularly if you are going to be sharing video. Now I'm going to shrink down this window for just a minute so that you can see that I have various tabs open right now in Chrome. So if I choose a Chrome tab, it's going to show me every Chrome tab that I have open, including this Google Meet. But let's say I really want you to see my Google Classroom tab. So I can find that Google Classroom tab, and I do like how it has icons, so I can try to pick the one that I really need. And I'm going to click Share so you can see what happens. So what happens is you get a little box at the top of your tab that indicates you are sharing that tab. The other thing that you get is the bar across the top that says you are sharing this tab. So I can stop sharing from here, or I can go back to my Google Meet tab and start presenting. However, what makes it so wonderful is that it's only showing this tab. So if I have other tabs open that aren't applicable to what we're meeting about, it doesn't matter. However, what you have to remember when you use the tab method instead of the window or whole screen method is that if you switch to another tab and you want them to see it, you're seeing it right now because I'm capturing my screen. The participants are not seeing this, and it says we're sharing the classroom, but you don't have this tab shared. Do you want to share this one instead? So if you're going to be bopping from tab to tab to tab, you may want to choose window. If you're only going to focus on one tab, you may want to choose tab, unless you remember to click on the share this tab instead. The thing that I always tell myself is I look for that little box. Whenever that little box is there, I know that's the one I'm sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop and go back to our meet. So this is an important feature, the Present Now feature. You just have to think about which method you'd like to use. So now I'm going to go on the bottom right and choose the three-dot menu and see that there are a couple things that you can do. Now the record meeting option is not going to be available to you because we do not have the Education Enterprise version. It was given free from Google for a little while. I think it's to the end of September, so this will not always show up. So don't become dependent on it. However, until the end of September, you do have the availability to record your meets, which is great if someone can't attend a live meeting and you want them to be able to watch it. We also have a change layout button, and that enables me to change the way the screen is looking. So I can have all the people as a sidebar with the main presenter in the middle. I can spotlight only one person, or I can also view tiled view. I like leaving mine in automatic mode because it does choose the best view for me. Under that, you have the full screen option, and you also can turn on captions here, but remember there's a shortcut here as well. Let's take a look at settings. Settings are important to consider because this is where you choose your input microphone, your output speakers, and it also is where you choose your camera. The reason I'm showing you this, besides making sure that you choose the correct equipment to make sure that you can hear and see and record, you also want to check and see if you have this resolution set to the best of what your internet can offer. So the higher the definition quality of video, the more bandwidth. So I'm going to put mine on standard, so it's not using the majority of my bandwidth. So this is something that you may need to come and mess with if you see that your video is getting choppy or it's hard to see others. So the next thing is you use a phone for your audio. So right now you are getting my audio and video streamed to you. If I remove the audio from streaming, then I'm only streaming my video, and I could use my phone for the audio. So if you find you're presenting and you've got to talk to your students, it might be easy for you to use your telephone to capture sound by placing it down on the table and using it in speaker mode, and then just streaming your video. It's up to you, and you're going to have to determine that based on your internet. The other places are how to report problems or get help from Google. In the top right-hand corner, one of the things that you'll notice is you get a small thumbnail of yourself. Now, I'm the only one in this call, so that's why I'm big on the screen, but this would normally be me, and this area in the middle would be other participants in the call or the screen that I'm sharing. This next button is your chat feature. The chat for Google Meet is specific to this meeting. So if someone had a question and they didn't want to verbally ask you, they could type it in and send it. It only works in sending it to everyone. The People tab is going to show me all the people that are in here, but it also gives me a place that if I need to add someone really quickly, I can invite them here or call them in. And that's how to access both the People tab and the Chat tab. Once you open this, it's essentially the same thing. You can just click back and forth. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is I've been moving my mouse, and so this bar at the bottom has stayed up. But you may be in a meeting for a while and you're focused on the meeting and you're talking, you're answering questions, and all of a sudden you realize that that bar at the bottom has kind of sunk down and you can't find it. Well, mine's not sinking down, but what you just do is you just move your mouse and that will pop back up. So if this disappears, no worries, just bring your mouse around on the screen and that will pop up and you'll be able to leave the call or turn off your microphone or turn off your camera, either way. So if you are using this in Google Classroom, when you have participants, you do have some controls over them. So I'm going to bring another participant in the call so that you can see what happens. So now I have another participant in the call with me, and you'll notice that the screen of the participant is now large in the middle. And if I close this for a moment, I'm still in this corner, really tiny, because that's what happens with grid view. As more people are added, you're going to stay small in the corner, and then you will get boxes across the bottom that show all your participants. So let's look at some of the controls. When I click on people, and I hover over them, I get a little drop down box here. First of all, I can tell that this person has muted themselves because I see the little red microphone. I also can visibly tell that this person has their camera off, and I will say in here that the more people who have their cameras off, the smoother that it can go in meeting with large groups of people. With small groups of people, as long as everyone's internet is okay, you should have a pretty fair time of using video. So the other thing that I have underneath here is if I have the ability to pin this person to the screen. Now, you're not going to really be able to see it in here because we're the only two in the meeting. But if I choose to pin this person to the screen, this person will always be the main window. So that's what pinning means. Actually, what I can do is I can pin myself. If I hover up here, I can pin myself, and now you'll see I'm pinned. I can see Amber's over here, but she's not pinned. So if I wanted to pin her, then that puts her in the main large area of the window, if you will. When there are only two people, you don't have to worry about pinning because it's going to have the other person there. You'll see that I can't unmute someone else. That's going to be something that you have to work on with students or other participants. My best practice is to have them all mute their microphones upon entering, and then I will give directions on how they can mute and unmute for further conversation. The one thing that you can do is kick someone out of a meeting, and you can use that with remove from meeting. Now, the other person cannot remove me from the meeting, so I can't be removed and they can't remove other people. But me, since I created this meet, I can remove someone if in the event that you needed to do that. So those are the people controls that you have. So if I wanted to go ahead and remove her from the meeting, I can just say remove her from the call. Yes, take her out, and she's gone. Poor Amber. So the person on the other end gets a message that they've been removed from the meeting. And so she has been kicked out, and she got a message that says she was kicked out. Now, there were some bugs in Google Meet for a while, so teachers were getting kicked out. So this is why we recommend that you use Google Classroom or nickname meets to create them, because if you use those two methods, you're not going to be able to be kicked out by other people in the meeting. So that's taking a look at the people section and also the chatting section. These are basically your tools. You can present, you can have a conversation, you can do all the things that you normally do in your classroom. You can do that through a video meeting. Since we have that recording ability, at least until the end of September, I could record it and send that link to anyone who couldn't come live. So that's just something to consider. Don't get dependent on that, but that's something that you could use at least until the end of September if you needed to. So once you're ready to end the call, here's my suggestion. You, as the organizer of the meeting, should always be the last person out. This is just so that you are constantly monitoring your classroom. Think about when you're in a physical classroom, you usually don't leave before the students and leave them in there to do whatever it is that they want to do. It's best practice for you to be the final one. So what I do is I wait until all people have disconnected and there's only one person in there, and that's me. And then once it's just me, then I will click hang up, and that means I have left the call. What that means for students is even if they try to click rejoin after they left before me and I ended the meeting, they're not going to be able to do that. I can click rejoin and go in there, but they can't. So that's only going to work if you're using nicknamed meetings or meetings in Google Classroom. So that's a great way to make sure that you're using that with students. However, if you are meeting with adults and you've created a calendar meeting and you have people in there working on teams and you're the organizer but you leave, the adults can stay in there and keep working. It's just something that's a protective measure if you're using students to use the nickname method or the Google Classroom method, so they're not in a virtual classroom space unsupervised. Hopefully this has been helpful for you to see the interface of Google Meet.